Hello, today we're going to talk about some science in the Bible, just certain scientific evidences that were in the Bible before the discovery by what people would call modern medicine. But of course, the Bible is, as usual, either a tool to some of our most major discoveries, as it was for Isaac Newton, or it is something that people try to prove wrong and then they make a huge discovery based on a lot of the evidences of the Bible. So I'm just going to go over a few of them just by scientific category, and I'm going to start with archaeology. There's really no debate that the archaeological accuracy of the Bible is true. I mean, there's never been an archaeological defective portion of the Bible. Everything the Bible says of where something is and how it describes it only gets proven by archaeology, who consistently tries to disprove the Bible only to prove it correctly. Civilizations like the Edomites, Philistines, as well as the land like the Ur of the Chaldees have all been found in proving the accuracy of the Bible, and these are all evidences of times where archaeologists sought to prove the Bible wrong and only proved it right. Not to mention all the other biblical confirmations of Jerusalem and Galilee and other places that we know, like Egypt, and it just talks about these places and describes them in a perfect manner, and there's no exaggerations, or there's nothing at all that you could really use against the text of the Bible not being factual. Also, from excavations like this, you recovered things like the Sumerian Kings List, which I challenge you to look up. It's really interesting because what it talks about is it names names of people that are actually in the Bible, like Peleg, and names them as kings who reigned for hundreds of years. Now, what's interesting about that is the Bible speaks of people before the flood living for hundreds and hundreds of years, people like Adam and Methuselah and Enoch, people who lived for hundreds of years, and Noah. And the Bible says that this was possible because there was a canopy around the earth that covered the earth and formed a greenhouse effect that protected everybody from the harmful rays of the sun and allowed people to live much, much longer. Now, what's interesting about this discovery is that you have names from the Bible during that time before the flood, and you have this list of kings who supposedly reigned for hundreds of years. Just an archaeological discovery that I challenge you to look up because it's really interesting and it shows just more credibility to the Bible. And I challenge you again to go and find some of this information for yourself. The Bible and astronomy. Job speaks in speaking of God that he stretched out the north over empty space and hangs the earth upon nothing in Job 26:7. Now, that's really interesting. I mean, today that's a known fact that the earth hangs on nothing, right? It just floats in space. But that's not what people thought in Job's day. In Job's day, people thought that it might have been on the backs of great elephants who were also on the back of a giant turtle, or it might have been held up by a giant man, a very strong man. And even the time of Greeks, much later, when they were more, people would consider more educated, they thought that it was held up by Atlas, one of the Greek gods. I mean, the fact that the earth was hung on nothing was not even observed until 499 AD by an Indian astronomer. So that's just one. Isaiah says, "It is he, God, who sits upon the circle of the earth," Isaiah 4:22. The Hebrew word in Isaiah used for circle means literally something's roundness or something that is spherical. So, of course, the people in Isaiah's time and for generations to come through the earth thought the earth was flat. This was a fact pondered by the Greeks, but later was thought again to be flat until Magellan sailed around the world in the 16th century. So you're talking of probably over 2,000 years from Isaiah saying that the earth was round up until the actual discovery by modern science, who we always want to rely on, but the Bible is something that can be relied on first. The Bible, biology. In the field of biology, one of the most commonly accepted and widely used laws of science is the law of biogenesis. It's a law set forth many years ago to dictate what both theory and experimental evidence showed to be true among living organisms, that life comes only from preceding life and perpetuates itself by reproducing only its own kind or type. And thousands of years before the law of biogenesis was even stated, Moses declared that things reproduce after their kind in Genesis 1, 11, and 12, and 21 and 24. You don't get bananas from corn stalks, you don't get cats from dogs, buffaloes from zebras, Moses was right on target. That's what God told him to write, and that's what he wrote. But how did he know these things since the science of genetics wasn't instituted until around 1900? It's really just another amazing declaration made by the Bible. Something I challenge you to go and look for the truth for yourself and go and find some other evidences based on this, or some things that the Bible has shown to be false. Try to prove the Bible wrong. I challenge you, and make a video that comes against everything I'm saying. I'd love to hear it. The Bible geology, the worldwide flood of Noah in Genesis 7:11 through 24 has been ridiculed by pretty much everybody, and yet in 1885, Edward Seuss was one of the first geologists to publish a study based on geologic framework of all countries. His research, especially in his observations of the world's mountain ranges, led to the discovery that all land surface had been underwater. Kind of amazing. Also, the Bible did declare that in Genesis 1:2, also right around creation time. Many huge fossil beds have been found where great numbers of many different types of animals were together. The flood explains this. As waters rose, animals would come together right on the tops of mountains only to be swept away and to have the currents deposit them along with loads of sediment. And that's what creates fossils too, because you have a rapid burial and a rapid closing off from oxygen and bacteria to deteriorate all those fossils, and that's how you get lots of fossils. We have evidence of quickly frozen mammoths in Siberia, which is also in favor of the flood. Also, a discovery of the T-Rex dinosaur flesh made by Mary Schweitzer is absolute proof of the dinosaurs having been here less than 5,000 years ago and most likely swept away in a giant flood, or at least a good portion of them. What does the Bible say about medicine? Well, Moses told the Israelites that the life of the flesh is in the blood. And indeed, once again, Moses was correct. Because red blood cells carry oxygen and hemoglobin cells, and life is made possible because of this. If you have 270 million molecules of hemoglobin that carried in each red blood cell, if there was any smaller amount of molecules of hemoglobin, if you were to sneeze, you would die. Or if you were to get a hard pat on the back, you would die if you didn't have the perfect amount. And just to understand that these things weren't discovered until even after the time of George Washington, who was killed by bloodletting. Bloodletting was going around even to the late 17th and 18th and into the 19th century. So this was a rather new discovery Moses had declared around 1400 BC. Things like circumcision being on the 8th day. Why would circumcision have to be on the 8th day? Well, in 1935, it was discovered by Professor H. Dahm that he proposed that vitamin K was essential for the clotting, and that would be the reason that you would have to prevent hemorrhaging, and why children, it was better if they were to be bled earlier than 8 or 9 days after birth, that the bleeding would really take a long time to stop. Well, it's proven fact that prothrombin, prothrombin, climbs above 100% on the 8th and 9th day and doesn't even start producing itself on the 5th through 7th day. So it's really kind of amazing. Why would they wait to the 8th day? Why not the 12th day? Why not the 5th day? I mean, why would the Jews decide to circumcise on the 8th day? Also, when the Bible talks about the woman having a seed, in Genesis 3:15, it talks about between her seed and your seed, it talks about her seed. And it was always thought about through all history that man is the one who carries the seed. And the women were more or less an incubator. One writer actually suggested that you could put semen in a pile of mud and the result would be the same. So people were quite ignorant to this, and yet the Bible declared that the woman also carried a seed, and her seed and your seed, that man and woman both had seeds combined together. This is part 1. I'm going to get into part 2 right now. I'm also going to do it back to back, so please click on part 2 because there's actually some more amazing stuff as we get into oceanography and numerics. Remember to look for the truth, seek God, because God is truly seeking you. Thank you.